Roll Tide! And welcome to Crimson Tide Rewind, live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills, presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health, who reminds Alabama, don't wait, vaccinate. Roll Tide, everyone. This is Roger Hoover, joined by former Alabama linebacker Cory Reamer. And Cory, Roll Tide, the regular season is done, and now 5 Iron Bowl victories in a row for Alabama.
Yeah, it's great to be on that side of such a streak. I mean, I was unfortunately a part of the last one that was on the other side, so this is always great to get a win when you go against your in-state rival, and especially after, even after 2 seasons that neither team probably were hoping how, turned out how they did. You still got to show up and play this game because it matters a lot to people in the locker room, the staff, the universities, the people across the state. There's a lot of people who are tuning in to watch this game. So to go out there and to get a win is always massive, and there's still implications for postseason play. You don't know what's going to shake out this championship weekend. There's a lot of different scenarios of opportunities for Alabama to at least be in the conversation. With a loss, that doesn't get to happen. So good for them. It was an interesting game. It seemed like things were in hand, but then the score didn't really reflect it. There was a lot of moments of ups and downs. It was a very very different type of game. You couldn't really find the flow of it.
Yeah.
It had a different feel than some of these have in the past 4 years, where there's a lot more on the line. And but it's still a big win. It's not easy to go out there and beat your biggest rival, one of your biggest rivals, across the state.
28-14 was the final score of the Iron Bowl. With the win, Alabama improves to 9-3 on the season. And now, as we'll talk about over the course of this next hour, really the waiting game begins to see what the postseason may look like for Alabama, either in the bowl game or the college football playoff.
Yeah, now you look at, you've seen what's happened in the last 2 weeks across college football. You see, all the losses of teams that were ranked ahead of us. We had opportunities right in front of us, beat Oklahoma, beat Auburn, and you've pretty much secured your spot in the college football playoff. Unfortunately, we fall to an Oklahoma team, and that was just a tough loss. That's a hard one to swallow as a fan right now, because now we're relying on other things to happen that we are no longer in control of, and you hate to be in that spot as a team. I know that locker room's disappointed in that situation as well, and this coaching staff and fans. So we'll see what happens, though. I mean, there's still plenty of scenarios, and I think the committee looking at this Alabama team, the wins that they do have. You got Georgia playing in the SEC championship. Obviously, that was probably our biggest win of the year. What happens when they go out there if they can beat Texas in the SEC championship game? It's hard to argue against Alabama being one of the 12 best if one of your biggest wins is against the eventual SEC champion. So we could probably, and I imagine we're going to discuss more of these down the road in this show today, but I think that there's plenty of opportunities, and hopefully some things shake out the way that they should. I think this is a good Alabama team, and I think that kind of summarizes the season. You've got games that we've played this year where we look unbeatable, and then we've got games where it's like we're real kind of, who is this? Why are we not dominating like the way that we are? How do we, be so hot and cold throughout the year? If we could have put some of these performances together in some of these games that we lost, I think that we'd be sitting in a much better situation. But still got a chance to play in the postseason, which is, what you can ask for at this point.
Well, tonight on the show, we'll talk all about the Iron Bowl. We'll talk all about the potential of spots for the Crimson Tide possibly to get into the college football playoff and what needs to happen as well. We invite your phone calls. Give us a call at 877-202-BAMA. That is 877-202-BAMA. As we're with you from the next hour from Baumhower's Victory Grille here in Vestavia Hills. This is Crimson Tide Rewind, and this is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
2 wideouts left, 2 right. Thorne gets the snap, fires it right side, catches made, didn't drop. Great hit delivered by Alabama. Oh, Malachi Moore, a big hit, knocking the football loose from Rivaldo Fairweather.
Make sure you keep up with everything Alabama with the Alabama Crimson Tide mobile app presented by Cadence Bank. It's available in the App Store and Google Play. Download the Alabama Crimson Tide mobile app now for free. And Cory, one of the great things we see before the final home game of the year, of course, Senior Day celebration. Got to see Malachi Moore honored for what he's meant to Alabama football over the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's a special day for all seniors, and I saw this stat, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the only player in the Iron Bowl history to go 5-0 against the opposing team. That's pretty special. Big day for him. That does seem like he has been there for forever. I remember when he was a freshman coming in and made a huge impact his first year, being in the secondary. and he continues to. I mean, making a bunch of big hits this weekend. He is a spiritual leader on that team. He brings a lot of energy to this defense. You know, you got to take the good with the bad. Sometimes, you know, his emotions get the best of him, but he's a guy that brings a spark to this defense, and he's a great leader, two-time captain of this team. So, good way for them to go out. I mean, senior day is always special. Ours was not the Iron Bowl. We played UT Chattanooga, but it's still a pretty cool moment when you get to walk out there with your family. Be honored by the fans. It's a special moment. So excited for a lot of these guys that have given a lot to this program. You know, with NIL and the transfer portal, does it? You know, a lot of these guys that have been there from their first year to their last. You know, that you got to really appreciate those guys that stuck around, especially with a coaching change. It's a big moment for them. You got to pat those guys on the back for not leaving, going somewhere else, and it just feels like down the road they're going to appreciate that they stuck around and stayed with one program for, you know, their entire career. I know we got some guys that transferred in, but you know, they're part of the family as well, and it's a special moment to get honored for all the hard work that you did. It's kind of a bittersweet moment too, because you realize that it's finally coming to an end. Some guys get to go on and play, continue to play, and some are their football career of all the, you know, they've done this their entire life, and now it's over with. That's a tough pill to swallow as well for some people. So special day to go out there and get a win on top of it.
Tonight we invite your phone calls. Give us a call at 877-202-BAMA. And our first call tonight comes to us from Pace, Florida, where Parker joins us now. Roll Tide, Parker.
Roll Tide, Roger and Cory. How are y'all doing?
Doing well. You got a lot of cheers, Parker, when your name was heard here in the restaurant. Roll Tide.
Thank you so much. I mean, I've always my dream has been broadcasting, and I want to work for the Crimson Tide Sports Network one of these days. But so man, that Georgia Tech game had me on the edge of my seat on Friday night. 9 overtimes, is that a record in overtimes?
It was theirs was 8. I think the record was 9. They were one shy of being going into that 9th overtime, but it was a heck of a game.
It was, and so who do we really need to be pulling for this week? Does the SEC championship game? I mean, who do we need to? Who and what needs to happen for us to? I still believe that Alabama is still one of the best teams in the country. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's the million-dollar question of who is really the wins and losses this weekend coming up that can help Alabama the most. You know, I feel like Georgia winning the SEC championship definitely helps in terms of our strength of schedule. I think with SMU being ranked ahead of us, Clemson being ranked behind us, that ACC championship, if Clemson wins, it's going to be really hard. I feel like even though SMU's strength of schedule doesn't look very good, I think I don't even know that their biggest win is. Maybe it was a Louisville team, I believe, is their best win so far this season. But, you know, there was a lot of talk before this weekend coming up of, are you going to penalize teams that are playing in their conference championship games when everybody else is sitting at home? And I think it's going to be really tough for the committee to do that. And so I feel like SMU getting a win this weekend in the ACC championship is the best case scenario for us, and I think Georgia beating Texas, and I don't think that eliminates Texas from the playoff by any means, but it just strengthens this, you know, the win that we did have against Georgia, and they've looked good. Obviously, that Georgia Tech game was incredible. I stayed up for the entire thing. They played not great the first half. You know, it seems to be the theme for Georgia this year, but they were able to find a way. I think they were down 14 with less than 6 or 7 minutes left to go. Find a way to get into overtime, and then go. Just, you know, it was not pretty. You know, especially when they got down to the 2-point conversion plays. It was not exactly the. And Kirby said it afterwards. We were running out of plays to run at the very end of the ball game. We didn't have any more 2-point conversion plays, but I think that's the best case scenario for us is a Georgia win and an SMU win. That's probably going to be the most beneficial for us.
Is that really the best way to determine a winner in overtime, the alternating 2-point conversions? I mean, I liked it when it was first introduced, but, I mean, that was tough to watch at times.
Yeah, you just hate for a game that's been played for so long to come down to literally just 2 plays. Like, you either execute it or you don't, and you can win or lose this ball game just by one shot. But I get the reason why they made the change, because even when they condense it to where you only run, from the 25 only twice, and then it goes to the 2-point conversions, they're trying to not keep these players from playing, 8 overtimes. Imagine you got 8 overtimes where each one of them starts in the old format where you're all starting at the 25. It just, the players are worn down. Everybody's tired. It's just, is it the best scenario, or is it the best way to solve the game, or determine a winner? Probably not, but it is what it is. And Georgia Tech had a lot of opportunities to win that ball game, especially when Georgia would go out first and not convert their play, and had a couple drop balls in the back of the end zone for some wide open receivers. You hated it for Brent Key, guy that's been in Alabama on the staff. He's really done a great job of turning that Georgia Tech program into a very competitive program. And you could just see the emotions on his face after that ball game. And, Kirby Smart was excited to get out of there with a win, because then they'd probably be sitting there, even though they're going to the SEC championship, it's like they would have to win the SEC, or they would be knocked out. It's been a wild year of college football all around. Just who are the good teams in college football this year? It's been pretty crazy.
That's the only thing I would change, I think, after you said that. I would take out the timeouts. I could not stand watching Kirby call timeouts before every overtime period began. Maybe we just truly keep the plays going, no timeouts in overtime.
Betsy and I were sitting on the couch. She was ready to go to bed 2 hours ago, and Kirby kept calling timeouts. She was even mad about it. She said something. She was like, "Are you serious? We got another timeout." I was like, they get one every overtime. You look at the NFL, and they've even changed the way that they do it, where it used to be whoever gets the ball first, if you can score a touchdown, ball game's over with. Well, the other team doesn't even get a chance to respond. I didn't like that either. The NFL changes it. I don't know if there's a great scenario or a great situation to determine a winner, because somebody's got to lose, and you hate for it to come down to just a short one play or whatever. But the timeouts. But Kirby was smart. I mean, it was well played. He can't blame him. That was the strategy, to go out there, and it ended up working out for him.
Alabama, of course, worked out for them as well on Saturday, picking up the win against Auburn, 28-14, the final score. Again, we invite your phone calls, 877-202-BAMA. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
1st and 10 for the 19. Bernard in motion. Fake handoff to him. Here's Milroe getting to the edge. Milroe 15. Milroe 10. 5. Touchdown, Alabama! Jalen Milroe broke containment. 19 yards, and Bama gets on the board first.
Tone setter from Jalen Milroe in the Iron Bowl against Auburn. J&J Apparel, your trusted source for Bama gear. New Alabama hats, T-shirts, and polos are arriving daily. Make sure you visit online at jnjapparel.net or shop their retail store at 1926 University Boulevard in downtown Tuscaloosa. RTR with J&J and Jalen Milroe. By his own admission, Cory didn't play the game he wanted against Oklahoma. He bounced back with 3 touchdowns on the ground and another passing touchdown as well against Auburn.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of been an up and down year for him as well. He's had some really good, solid performances. The only downside of this past weekend from him was just the continuation of some turnovers. But other than that, I thought the game plan was really good. I loved what we did on the offensive side of the ball. Got his, Oklahoma, we just seemed to continue to try to run Jalen, and it just didn't seem to have the same success. And I feel like this week we got Jan Miller involved, and he had one of his best days that we've seen in a while. And it really opened up a lot of things for Jalen as well. He's just such a great athlete, and we didn't have to take these deep shots to try to get this offense moving. We were able to have a lot of success on these early downs, 1st and 2nd down. It made this offense kind of move a lot more efficiently than what we saw last week. But I thought the offensive line played really well up front. Parker Brailsford, that left side of the offense really seemed in the running game to really impose their will. But Jalen using his feet, scoring 3 touchdowns, really makes up for some turnovers as well as he played. Coming off last week against Oklahoma, it's got to be a knock to the confidence when you have a game like that. So to see him bounce back, obviously there were turnovers. Not all of them were his fault again, especially that Ryan Williams turnover was bizarre. But he seemed to just be able to block out all the noise and go out there and continue to make plays. And Had some opportunities that we left out there, but overall I thought the offense played pretty well. I love the game plan for sure.
Yeah, good performance by Milroe. Again, 3 rushing touchdowns, set a passing one. Did not have a passing touchdown, but he did throw for 256 yards, 18 of 24 passing in the game as Alabama rolled over Auburn 28-14, the final score. Again, we invite your phone calls. Give us a call at 877-202-BAMA. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Tight end right, handoff up the middle. Haynes pulls forward into the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama. Justice Haynes. Touchdown number 7 on the year.
Hey, if you'd like to join our show, you can also submit your question to us on the Alabama Media Group Twitter line at UA_CTSN, brought to you by AL.com, your source for SEC sports. One tweet coming in from Austin who says, what can help Alabama to get in the college football playoffs? And really, we saw a lot of good things on Saturday. Make sure that Alabama's even now in striking distance getting ready for championship Saturday. Certainly the Clemson loss to South Carolina was helpful. Also Syracuse against Miami was really helpful as well. And then Texas beating Texas A&M and really knocking them out of the conversation also helped this past week.
Yeah, I think the biggest question right now is, after watching South Carolina on the back half of this season, it's a hard argument not to say that they're one of the better teams. They have definitely been playing some really good football leading towards the back half of this season. They're a team that gave us a lot of fits, but I think if you look at that head-to-head matchup, that's going to give us the advantage. There's a big emphasis from this committee on head-to-head matchups, and you look at the final score of that game, I don't think it was not as close as what it ended up being. Obviously, you can't argue against that. They scored 27 points, had a chance to win the ball game at the end. I think we gave them a lot of opportunities with some mistakes that we made, but South Carolina is a one that's going to be hard for them to keep out because they are, I think, one of the best. They're a pretty good team right now as well, but in the last 2 weeks, you've seen a lot of teams go down. Texas winning that game handily against Texas A&M. Tough finish for the Aggies after losing Auburn. You turn around and lose to Texas, and you had opportunities to be in the playoffs. But Clemson winning or has a chance to really make some big splash. That's going to disrupt a lot. You don't know what's going to happen this upcoming weekend, but I just feel like that Alabama, with the program that they are, the history that we have, and I don't beat around the bush. I think that the brand recognition of what Alabama is and the conference that you play in, the strength of this conference, plays into a lot of the decisions that this committee is going to make.
And these are really made for TV matchups. A lot of the bracketology you look at has Alabama potentially going to a Penn State, going to a Notre Dame. That's something TV networks would certainly love.
You got to be you'd be licking your chops. Who doesn't want to see Alabama at Notre Dame or Alabama at Penn State
or even Ohio State?
Yeah, I think that'd be something that is you must watch TV. You're going to turn it on versus some different matchups that could potentially happen as well. But you also want to give credit to a lot of the teams that are really good. But I think the argument's got to be made of who are the good teams. Obviously some records might be better, but it's hard to say that. It's Coach Saban used to say that, he said it a couple of times too. What's the line going to be if Alabama and SMU play? But you got to give respect to these teams. They went out and they had the schedule in front of them. They were able to win the ball games. They took care of business. You can't take away from some of those scenarios. But if I'm anybody that's in this guaranteed a spot in this bracket, I don't want to see Alabama get in because of the fear of having to face us. And so that should tell you a lot that you need to know.
Tonight, of course, we're talking about Alabama's chances of making the college football playoff. We're rewinding as well Alabama's win in the Iron Bowl against Auburn, and we're hanging out with you from Baumhower's Victory Grille, where they understand that times are tough, especially this time of year, so their Santa Specials menu is here to make your wallet happy, featuring items starting at just $7.99, like their 1/3 pound custom grind Omaha beef tailgate burger, curly Q fries, and a free beverage for only $8.99. Baumhower's legendary fun, legendary food, and legendary value. More of Crimson Tide Rewind coming up next. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Milroe looking that direction. Looking down the seam left side. He's got Williams. Ryan gets it to the 30. Ryan makes 2 men miss. 25, and Jeremy Bernard, not Ryan Williams, gets it to the 25 of Auburn, a gain of 26.
Hey, if you'd like to join our show tonight, you can also submit your question to us on the Alabama Media Group Twitter line at UA_CTSN, brought to you by AL.com, your source for SEC sports. We are still coming to you live from Baumhower's Victory Grille here in Vestavia Hills with Crimson Tide Rewind, presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health, who reminds Alabama, don't wait and vaccinate. So the Crimson Tide get the win against Auburn, and tempers did flare a few times during the ball game, notably when Lambert Smith essentially pulled Devontae Smith into the sideline. A little bit of an altercation there. Not only Devontae Smith flagged, but Malachi Moore flagged for something else along those lines. But that was pretty tame compared to what we saw the rest of the college football Saturday in what was a crazy rivalry day.
Yeah, I was about to say there was something in the water this weekend. I've never seen so many brawls break out. And, I mean, you got to expect the temper's going to flare. A lot of these guys, you didn't know what – with all that's changed in college football, you know, a lot. It used to be when Auburn played Alabama, a lot of the guys that were on both sidelines grew up playing with each other or against each other. You know, a lot from Birmingham or a lot from different spots of the state that end up playing against each other. It's easy to see how those tempers can flare a lot easier. But now you just don't know how many guys have ties to these universities, but you can still tell it means a lot to these players. But Ohio State, Michigan, I don't know if you had a chance to see that with some pepper spray getting busted out in that game. There were definitely some it's entertaining to watch. You know, I enjoy seeing some guys get excited about you know, and then I guess it was Steve Sarkisian having to run his guys off the middle of the field from, you know, stomping on some logos, and you can tell that it means a lot to these kids, and just glad nobody got hurt in our sideline, because once it gets started, if you're I love seeing these coaches and these assistant coaches that are running into the pile and trying to separate the two, and it's like, you don't have a helmet on. All these guys are have huge swings going all over the place, and it's lucky that you don't get cold cocked and get knocked out for the rest of the game too. So luckily it didn't turn into anything more, but it was a wild weekend. I mean, there was a bunch of brawls, even besides those two games, and I wish I would have written them down, because it seemed like every time I was watching a highlight on the TV during the broadcast, they were showing another fight breaking out during some of these college football games. You hate to see it, but as a fan, I kind of enjoyed it.
It was pretty enjoyable. And all centering around, now there's going to be a huge debate as well about whether or not, you know, flag planting on your opponent's 50-yard line and logo is allowed anymore. I say you win the game, you can kind of do whatever you like.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where
Todd disagrees.
You probably are. I don't know. I wouldn't say you're in the minority of that at all. There was, I guess it was it Florida State? Billy Napier had to, you know, try to keep his guys, act like you've been there type situation. You know, there's a, you know, you're competitive during the game when the clock's running, but as soon as it's over with, you play and you get out of there, you enjoy the win. Your play says what you needed it to say. You don't have to go out there and celebrate and stomp on people's logos, but Rodgers built from a different cloth, I guess. You know, he's cut from a different cloth. He likes to see it. He likes it. He adds to it as the fuel for the next season, I guess. It brings in a lot of different emotions when you got to have those types of games, and you remember what happened to you if you're the opposing team that isn't the one that gets to celebrate.
Hey, rivalries are rivalry. Let's go.
I didn't know this side of you, man. I kind of like it. Didn't know you had it in you.
Pretty competitive. So, again, we saw a lot of that emotion, of course, over this past weekend of college football. All of this stuff on campus. Now we get to move mostly off campus coming up this week with all the neutral sites for conference championship games.
Yeah, and then following that, we've got bring back some home games after that, which is that's going to be the fun part about this. I think if you're a football fan, being able to host a game in this playoff scenario is something that you got to be pretty excited about, especially if you're a fan and you got a team that's got a chance to go deep into this playoff run. You know, you hope that you're not having to travel to off-site locations for all four of these games that you might have to go to. But this is going to be an interesting dynamic of going forward, with a lot of talk this year of players not playing or coaches not really putting in a lot of effort into conference championship games. But I think if you look around most of these that are being played, there's a lot of implications for these games. You know, earlier on in the season, a lot of people said maybe, you know, even if you lose, a lot of these teams had chances to still be in the playoff, you know, scenario. But now it seems like a lot of teams are playing for their playoff lives, that they've got to win and go out there and compete. And it's still from a guy who played in 2 SEC championship games. that one was one that always meant a lot.
Yeah.
Of course, it was also we played Florida for 2 straight years, and that was really kind of the pseudo-national championship game. Those are the 2 best teams in the country coming from the best conference. So I imagine it's still going to be fun to watch this championship Saturday.
Certainly will be a great place to watch the games, of course. Baumhower's Victory Grille located all across the state of Alabama. And even though tonight is our final Crimson Tide rewind of the season, don't forget you can catch Hey Coach and the Nate Oates Show starting next Monday at 6 p.m. live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Tuscaloosa, located at 500 Harper Lee Drive, of course, at home in Tuscaloosa. That's Hey Coach and the Nate Oates Show, Mondays at 6 p.m. right here throughout the rest of basketball season, even into the spring sports as well on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. We'll continue talking Alabama football when we return. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
2 tight ends, 1 to each side. Single setback. Haynes, quarterback keep. And there goes the quarterback. Touchdown, Alabama. Jalen Milroe, a 17-yard keeper, and the Tide adds to its lead.
You're listening to Crimson Tide Rewind live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. Roger Hoover, Cory Reamer talking with you about Alabama football now that the regular season has come to a close. Potential for Alabama to make it to the college football playoff, and that would mean a few weeks to get rested and ready to go for whatever the postseason looks like, either a bowl game or a playoff appearance. And when this team has had time to get healthy, they're pretty dangerous so far this year.
Absolutely, and I think that what we saw on Saturday is even with a bye week just a few weeks ago, this team is still pretty banged up. You could just tell Justin Jefferson's out there just playing, obviously you lose Deontay Lawson, a guy that can't come back. Justin Jefferson steps in a big way, but he's out there fighting every single play to obviously not playing at 100%. I think we've got a number of guys that are out there just trying to finish the season, trying to stay healthy. That's the name of the game is if you can be the healthiest team towards the end of the year, you got a really good chance of making a deep run in these playoffs. But a couple of weeks off, giving some of these guys some rest, it's a long season, and it's going to be even longer playoff season if we have the ability to make it into it. You got to think about you're playing, potentially, 2, 3, 4 games. It's something that we haven't seen before. This is a very NFL style, with potentially having 15, 16 games, whatever it might be. It's a long season for these college guys that also have to worry about classes and all this other stuff they have to do. It's a little bit different from the NFL from that standpoint, but yeah, we could definitely use some rest if we're going to have a chance to make it in, because it's hard to go out there and compete when you're playing the top 12 teams in the country and you're just not 100% healthy.
Yeah, Alabama getting healthier would certainly help, as, of course, the offense, Jalen Milroe with extra rest has looked really sharp, especially in the ball games against Georgia and LSU. And then for the defense, like you mentioned, Justin Jefferson's doing so much trying to stay on this field. And I liked a lot what we saw from the defense this past Saturday.
Man, this defense has just played tremendous towards the end of this year. It seems like they're really clicking on all cylinders. And you go out there and you're facing a guy like Jarquez Hunter who, even though Auburn's record is what it is, that's a guy that's been pretty dominant. They lean on him very heavily in the Auburn offense. And to go out there and you only give up 6 points off of 4 turnovers, that's a huge win for this Alabama defense. Forcing Auburn into a lot of long down and distance situations, getting pressure on Peyton Thorne. I thought Quay Russaw had a phenomenal game. It just seemed like last week we were missing some of that physicality, but this week we really brought it. You saw a lot of plays from a lot of these defensive guys going out there and taking charge, taking the hits to these guys on, pulling guards, getting knocked on their tail. It seemed like they were playing with a different speed. I thought, like I said, Quay Russaw was one of those guys that continues to play well. And Bray Hubbard, he's been
every game we talk about.
I mean, it's incredible that you lose a guy like Keon Sabb, and you always feel like there's going to be some drop off from that when you've got a guy that transfers in, and how much of an impact he had early on in the season. But Bray Hubbard's one of those guys that has stepped in a big way. He's made big plays every single week. He's fun to watch. He flies to the football. He sticks his helmet in there. He's not afraid of contact. He's a guy that's going to be fun to watch as his career continues to grow.
And these corners keep getting better as well. Xavier Brown, more big plays from him. Damani Jackson. I mean, it's hard to throw against this Alabama offense right now.
Yeah, the defense, yeah, for sure. It's those guys. Damani Jackson has been one of those guys that we weren't talking about earlier on in the year. He's somebody who was a huge transfer from USC. We get him in there, and he's had a huge impact. This defense, it took a minute for us to kind of get accustomed to what this defense was supposed to look like. And the scheme was different. The way we were playing, sometimes, it seemed like we didn't have the gap integrity in a couple games, but the way that they have finished this year has been incredible. When you're holding Jarquez Hunter to his second lowest rushing total of an entire season, and they're out there competing, fly around to the ball. You saw Malachi Moore, the highlight that we played earlier, dislodging footballs, which is hard to do in this day and age when you're playing defense. A lot of times you get a penalty for whatever reason in those situations, but they're playing fast. They seem to really enjoy the style of football that they're playing. And with it being as banged up as we are on that side, to continue to play, that only means good things for us going forward with the depth that we have. More so than we probably thought we had to start this year, these guys are playing really well.
Some reasons for optimism if Alabama indeed makes it to the college football playoff. More on that when we return. You're listening to Crimson Tide Rewind, and this is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
4 wideouts left for Auburn. This is a lateral, trying to set up a double pass. They're looking deep. This one's going to be picked, intercepted. Bray Hubbard at the 5. Auburn outthinking themselves there, and now a flag comes in late, but it'll be Bama football.
Before we take a look at our prescription for success, we'll go back to the phones one final time tonight where Joe joins us from Hartselle. Roll Tide, Joe.
Hey, guys. Look, I really appreciate y'all's show. I've listened to it every week. I think it's the first time I've called in all year, but I really appreciate your opinions. And, guys, you told it like it is. We've had some really good games, and, yes, we've had some really bad games. So, anyway, that's what I wanted to say. And, once again, appreciate what you do and looking forward to see what happens in the next couple of days.
Yeah, appreciate you, Joe. It's I think that's the unfortunate part about this year, or just the thing that you throw your hands up is there's been some opportunities to go out there and get some wins, but obviously, you look at that Vanderbilt loss and you see what they've been able to do. Clark Lee's got that team playing extremely well, and that shows you what the transfer portal can do for you. They pull in some of the, a number of guys. I think it was 50 transfers in, a lot of them coming from that New Mexico State program, and being able to turn around and make success out of it pretty quickly. But, yeah, I think the ups and downs of this year, it's new coaching staff. With the situation with Coach Saban retiring at the beginning of the year, when it happened, the roster is a free-for-all, trying to maintain, keep a lot of guys to stay. You lose a lot of key pieces that played really well for us last year. I'm looking forward to seeing what this program is going to be able to do going forward. We talked about it in the break, having signing days coming up. Coach DeBoer and his staff have done a phenomenal job of going out there and recruiting a lot of these high school players. We're going to hopefully be able to retain. I think that's going to be the biggest mark for this coaching staff, is how many of these guys that have been really big contributors for us this year can we keep on this roster going forward. I think that's the biggest task for any coaching staff, is not just recruiting new kids, but kids that are on your team already from going and taking, grabbing the money and going somewhere else. Obviously losing Isaiah Bond to Texas last year, how big would he have been in this offense to be able to be a complement to Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams? So I'm looking forward to seeing how these guys, what they're able to do and keeping guys on this team.
Let's take a look at our prescription for success. It's presented by Payless Drugs, your locally owned family pharmacy with 5 locations in Birmingham. Payless can handle your prescriptions, over-the-counter solutions, and home delivery. Payless at mynewpharmacy.com. That's a pretty good roadmap right there for what Alabama needs to do in terms of roster management. But how about if this Crimson Tide team makes it to the playoffs?
Yeah, I think that, whoever we're going to face going forward, if we get the opportunity to play in the postseason, I think we've got a lot of good things to build on. The defenses continue to play well. They're keeping teams out of the end zone. They're, they've allowed some chunk plays. I think that's one thing that if you're on, you're Kane Womack, you're looking at how a lot of things that we did good on the defensive side of the ball. There were some big plays that we continue to allow to happen. We've got to shut those down. And then from the offensive side, we've got to be better at ball security. It's just one thing that you can't do. We skated away with some wins when we turned the ball over and, had 4 turnovers this past weekend and were able to win this ball game. But when you're starting to look at some of the competition that we might be facing in the playoffs, you've got to protect the football. But I thought the running game was phenomenal of being able to eat a lot of clock, especially in the second half, keep the ball out of Auburn's hands, really helped us be able to solidify this game and get us the win.
Crimson Tide win indeed against Auburn, 28-14 the final score. When we come back, we'll be back for our final segment of the year for this show. Crimson Tide Rewind is, of course, brought to you by the Alabama Department of Public Health, who reminds Bama fans, don't wait, vaccinate. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. What's on tap next for Bama? Brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light, proud sponsor of Alabama Athletics. It is easy to drink. It is easy to enjoy. Again, we just have to wait for Alabama football to see the CFP selection show coming up on Sunday morning to see whether or not the Crimson Tide will indeed be in the 12-team college football playoff. Alabama made it to the 14 playoff last year after winning the SEC championship, ultimately falling to Michigan in the Rose Bowl. But hopefully the Crimson Tide will make it back, and Cory, we can have a very fun holiday season, hopefully having a deep run to the playoffs and hopefully another potential national championship.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We'll see what happens. This is the hard part about it is, like we said earlier in the show, it's out of our hands. We'll see what happens on Sunday when the selection committee gets together, all those big brains that decide of who the best 12 teams are. They're going to get an opportunity to play for this championship. But this is the new wave of college football, and I think this is going to continue to grow. The postseason is exciting. Hopefully we get a chance to be a participant in it.
As I mentioned before, this is our final Crimson Tide Rewind of the season. Coming up next week at Baumhower's in Tuscaloosa, it will be Hey Coach and the Nate Oates Show, and Nate Oates and Chris Stewart. So we do hope our fans will be able to either make the trip. So many of you who have been so loyal, Johnny Montgomery, this whole crew right here, you guys have been awesome. Joining us each and every week. Want to give all of you a shout out, as well as the Cory Reamer family, who is not here tonight, but usually right there, always cheering us on as well. But
yeah,
we
it's been fun. It's been a fun year. I can't believe we're already at the end of the season, but appreciate all the people that show up every single week to make the environment that we have. Appreciate you guys. This is makes it a lot of fun. It's hard to believe the year's over with, but hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's not. You're not going to see us on Mondays, but hopefully the season is not over with. We're excited about basketball season, but we hope we still get to watch some football games between now and the end of the year.
Absolutely. Huge shout out as well to Todd Robbins, who of course has been our producer engineer on site each and every week. Last week, I know the fans loved when he filled in for me as the host of the show. Did a great job.
As always, absolutely. Let's go, Todd.
Todd, Roll Tide. Roll Tide as well to Jerry Kelly back at our studios. He produces each and every one of these shows, and today is Jerry Kelly's birthday.
Happy birthday, Jerry. Yep. Good way to finish the year, man. Happy birthday. Appreciate all y'all's hard work. It's been a fun year.
It certainly has been a fun year of Crimson Tide football, and again, it's not over just yet. We just kind of have to wait and see what's going to happen for this group, but do want to remind everyone as well, keep up with us with Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR every Thursday at 2 o'clock. Again, Hey Coach moving to Mondays. We're going to have you covered for whatever is coming for Alabama football. May even get Cory Reamer coming up on Crimson Drive every now and then.
Would love to, absolutely.
The fans want it, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's exactly what. They're just excited to see you and hear your voice all the time, man.
No, I don't think so, but Cory, it's been fun, man.
Hey, appreciate it. Roll Tide, man.
Roll
appreciate
Tide.
y'all.
That's Cory Reamer. I'm Roger Hoover. If you missed any portion of tonight's show, remember you can always catch it on demand on our Alabama Insider podcast. Make sure you download and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. That's going to do it for this edition and this season. Again, thanks to everyone here at Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills, making us feel right at home each and every Monday night. But that does it for Crimson Tide Rewind, presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health. Jerry Kelly back at our Learfield studios. Of course, our engineer, Todd Robbins. Cory Reamer, I'm Roger Hoover. Thank you to our fans that have been here every week. They're giving us a standing
I know. I like this. We must have done something right.
Absolutely. But from Vestavia Hills, Alabama, good night and roll Tide.